Okay, everybody. Listen, thanks again for taking some time to join us for the webinar tonight. This webinar is meant for local homeowners who want to get a sense or understanding of, reasons why they might want to sell, what's going on for sellers, and the balanced approach of, reasons why you might want to stay, and things that people who want to maybe not sell and want to look at other options for their home should look at. I'm David Pipe. I'm a mortgage agent here based out of Guelph with WealthTrack. I'm joined by Rob Kent, who's a local expert realtor with Home Group Realty. And we'll go right into it. And we hope this webinar will be informative and helpful for those who want to get a sense of, whether they should stay or go in the real estate market here in Guelph, knowing what's happening in today's real estate market. So let's jump right in. Big picture agenda. We're going to talk about some of the insights, what you need to know about what's happening in the market today. It's obviously been a very turbulent market. We're heading into the end of October in a year that nobody would have ever expected. We're going to go into some of the critical things that homeowners who are selling need to know, including reasons to sell. And then we're going to balance that out with some of the most important things that people who were thinking about selling maybe should consider staying and not selling at this time. As well as some backup behind that. And of course, we'll have time for questions at the end. As I said earlier, this webinar is being recorded. And at the end, if you have questions, please use the chat function or reach out to us, and we'll be happy to connect you or to connect with you at the conclusion. So with that being said, why don't we just get started? So Rob, why don't we start with you? I think it's really important for local folks in the market to understand what's happening in the real estate market right now. I mean, we had the strangest summer that I've seen in real estate in a long time, but let's hear your expert opinion. What's going on right now?
So David, it is busy. It's super busy out there in the market. It's what we would call a seller's market. So, and what I mean by that is there's much more demand than there is supply. So there's lots of sales, but not enough inventory, not enough homes for sale. So what sellers are seeing are multiple offers on the sale of their homes. So some of the reasons why it's such a seller's market is a lack of rentals. So people are having a tough time finding a place to rent. The influx of people coming from the GTA, from Toronto, Brampton, Mississauga, so they're coming, from the big city into pockets like Guelph, Kitchener, Cambridge, Waterloo,
Right.
and driving. That kind of drives up the price. The more people, the higher the price, right?
Right.
So the one stat, I guess, that we have is the increase from year over year. So if you go to the next slide there,
Yeah, of course.
yeah. Yeah, so that slide there. So 13%, 13.6%. So this is the median price. Average home selling in Guelph right now, 642,000. So that's
Wow.
13.6% increase over last year. Typically, what we see is about 5 to 7% increase from year over to year. So
Right.
this is like double, which
Right.
is just kind of unheard of.
Yeah. It's funny because we're talking about those who want to consider selling, and of course, it comes down to is this a time to sell, and this is why we're having this webinar tonight. But 13% increase on the house price of your house for a home in Guelph that's was $500,000 last year, now is 560,000. It's quite a enticing reason for people to look at. Is this my time to take my equity and do something with it? So that's a very impressive stat. With that being said, why don't we dive right into some of the background behind those who might want to sell, what they might want to look at.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us more about it?
Yep. So, with some of the biggest reasons why somebody would look to sell, like you had mentioned, I think just a couple of minutes ago, was just about the profit, like taking the equity out of your home and doing something with that, whether it's investing or renovating your home. Another reason that people might sell is the change in family, the size, whether it's children leaving the home or maybe, children coming into the home, and you need a bigger home, lifestyle change, whether it's you just got a job promotion, and you're looking to get a bigger home. Maybe you're looking for a vacation home, or maybe your work has changed totally. That maybe you have the ability to work from home now, and
Yeah.
like I had mentioned with maybe the people from the GTA, and you don't necessarily need to work near your or live near your work, so you can pick a smaller city and then kind of take the equity that you've built into your home in the GTA and then come to Guelph. And
Yeah.
what we're seeing now is a lot of people are picking certain neighborhoods and schools to move closer to so that their children can go to the best schools.
Right. It's incredible when you think about what kind of impact that has. Specifically the COVID and the change in the way people work, on local real estate. I mean, it's been like this for months now, where you hear about folks, sort of migrating from the bigger, more expensive centers to some of these medium size and even smaller towns and cities. In our example, like Guelph, where real estate prices are a lot lower, and that's driving up the price because we just have an imbalance. So it's just really interesting, and I think that for those that maybe want to make a change or looking for a house that fits their needs a little bit better, maybe it's more office space, or a place where they can have more room for family time or a fitness space or whatever. Certainly this is a big factor right now. So
Yeah.
diving a little deeper, we're thinking about selling. We've been in a house for a while, maybe 5 years or 10 years, or you know, tell us about timing. Let's talk about whether or not the timing is right. What does the timing look like, you know, over the year, and specifically in the time we're in now? Talk about the timing for us.
Yeah, so I mean, typically the timing, the best times to sell would be in the spring and in the fall. This is when the most people are shopping to buy a home, and that's what you want. You want to sell when you have the most buyers available, and we're seeing that right now. And we've been seeing that ever since kind of May, when they started opening things up, during the pandemic. Um, March, April were a little bit slower with sales. We didn't see a decline in the price, but we saw a decline in the sales. But then May, June started picking up. Again, July was the most homes that we've ever had sold in history. Um,
Really?
which is it's kind of crazy during a pandemic of all things. But yeah, I mean, you want to sell when you have the most amount of buyers ready to
Right.
buy your home.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it makes total sense, and this year, I guess we have to look at it in a way that it's not a typical year.
Yeah.
Normally the summer's a slow time, but you just said in July we had our biggest month ever. So things are a little different in 2020, and I think that's why, for those who are interested in learning more about, whether or not it's a good time for them, getting on this webinar and connecting with a local expert realtor like yourself is going to become really important. Speaking of that, and speaking of how we get the most for our house, can you talk through with us on what do people need to do nowadays to get the most amount of money possible for their house if they're thinking of selling? They're going to go through the hassle and work and cost of making that change. How do we make sure that we get the most for it?
Yeah. So again, to get the most out of the house, like I had mentioned before, you want as many people seeing the house as possible so that you can get the most offers. And in order to do that, you want your house to be the most presentable. So you want it to look good. You want to have professional pictures. You want to have professional staging done in your home. If your home needs a little bit of a spruce up, maybe it's some fresh paint. Paint is the number one thing that you can get back of value in your home. Just because you don't have a finished basement, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to finish that basement or get the most for your home, because your home can sell the way it is, especially with the amount of buyers there are right now. And it's just
Right.
having kind of like an online presence to help build the amount of people that see your home, whether it's social media or it's advertising.
Right.
That's how you're probably going to get the most out of your house.
It sounds like the marketing component becomes really important, when you're trying to go from getting average return on your investment to, above average and excellent return on your investment. In a time like this, when there are a lot of buyers, this is your time to really create excitement,
Yep.
right, around the house. And I hear what you're saying about getting as many buyers as possible in there, in the period of time that you have, to create some excitement around the house and to create some excitement around the sale. Because, when we have a supply and demand imbalance and there's not as much supply out there, it's nice to be able to get the buyers that are involved to become really excited about the house that they're looking at, because, your home could be the perfect home for them.
Yeah,
So
that's exactly it.
having said that, times are different, and we want to get buyers excited, but I can see a lot of homeowners out there being nervous about getting 20 people, 30 people or more in their house on a Saturday afternoon for an open house. So what is the selling process like nowadays? A lot of the people on the call might never have sold their house in the last number of years, and maybe things have changed a lot. So tell us what it's like nowadays, and tell us what it's like during COVID for someone to sell their home.
Yeah, so it is a little bit different in gone probably the days of doing the old school open house where you have to leave your home for Saturday and Sunday for 2 to 3 hours each day to have a bunch of people come through your home. Now the virtual open houses, a lot of realtors offer that, whether it's a pre-recording of your home or it's the realtor doing what they call a virtual live. You could do like a Facebook live where you can answer questions and stuff like that.
Really?
But yeah, selling during COVID, we didn't really know how it was going to happen. Obviously, with July having the most sales, there was enough people that felt comfortable, and we do keep our sellers safe, and we keep the clients, the buyers coming through safe as well. It's wearing masks, having sanitizing before you come in, sanitizing as soon as you leave, and then having the sellers wipe down the home for the next showings the next day or something like that. It's
Right.
just making sure that everybody is safe and having and asking the questions, pre-screening, I guess,
Right.
pre-screening clients to make sure that everybody's safe before they come into the house.
Right. Yeah. It seems like, everywhere we go, we have pre-screenings and health
Yeah.
checks. And I think that's really important to encourage, the, lowest rate of transmission and keep everybody healthy and safe. So,
Yeah.
I guess in some ways, selling during times like these can actually be really helpful, because given that demand is so much higher than supply out there, houses are selling probably faster. Rob, and can you give us some sense of how long it might take, so that, like, if I'm a seller today, I
Yeah.
probably don't want to have my house in the market for 2 months like it used to be. That was pretty normal. It
No.
was 60 days. So
Yeah.
what's it like nowadays there?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, like the average house is selling now in less than 2 weeks. So, and even in some cases, even less than a week.
Wow.
They're selling pretty quickly, and
Yeah.
you don't necessarily need to have that open house. Like well, you can't have the open house, but people aren't missing the open house. That's what
Right.
I say. So there's still other ways to sell your home.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I look at the way that the mortgage side is working nowadays, most of my client meetings are virtual. Most of my applications get done over the phone or over a call like this,
Yeah.
with Zoom or FaceTime or whatever method the client likes. It's pretty rare to go into a home or to have an in-person meeting like they used to. So in some ways, the way of selling with a lot more digital, a lot more video, a lot more virtual marketing tools is actually bringing us up to date, where I think it's actually becoming more convenient for the buyers, because you could see multiple houses without driving all over town and without leaving your home, right? So
Yeah.
you can really make a decision on if it's worth a real good look. And I bet there's probably some people buying without going into the home on a condition that they get a chance to, you know. So things are really different than they used to be in that way. Um, if now someone's decided that, okay, I get the idea that prices are up, just 13% in this year alone, that the market is timed right because of what's going on with low interest rates for buyers and imbalance in supply and demand. What do we do for the homeowner who wants to sell to stand out above the competition? What can they do to make sure that they separate themselves from the other houses out there so they can sell quickly and sell for the right price?
Yeah, well, it's getting in front of as many people as possible, getting as many buyers, like I had mentioned before. So, what you want to do is you want to get the right realtor, work with the right realtor that is, going to promote your property. Advertising. It's making sure you have the professional pictures, making sure that it's staged properly so that it shows really well, kind of like a model home, right? That's what you want when somebody walks in, is to have your home be the model home. And it's just asking those questions, and again picking the right realtor.
Right, right. Of course, having a team around you, that makes total sense.
Yeah,
No, this is all really good information. So if we're considering selling, I think that I understand the kinds of things that people need to do.
yeah,
Why don't we switch gears and talk about the other side of the coin for a moment?
yeah. Why would people,
Um,
what are some of the reasons to consider staying, David?
it's a great question because whenever somebody's looking at making a big decision like selling their home, and there's effort and cost and time that goes along with that, I think it's always good, and I encourage clients to figure this out and find out by getting advice for people to understand the big picture. Because if you know as many of the facts as you can know, and you make the decision to sell, then you're making the right decision. So it's all about becoming educated. So I think the first thing to know is that there are costs as far as your current mortgage, and people need to understand that if you have a mortgage today and you're with a lender, and especially in a fixed term mortgage, and you're in the early term. So, for example, in a 5-year mortgage, and you're, in your first or second or even third year of that mortgage, the prepayment penalties to break that mortgage can be especially high, especially with fixed rates and especially with the big banks. So, a lot of lenders out there have different ways of calculating these penalties, and it makes a lot of difference which lender you're with and which mortgage you have. So, if you're curious about your prepayment penalty, your penalty to break the mortgage, check out your lender's website or reach out to somebody like myself to help you find the right answers, because that penalty could knock a lot of your profit off the table, and perhaps encourage you to maybe wait before you decide to sell. Now, if you're in the end of your term, you're in the last year or so, the penalty can be usually as little as 3 months interest. So let's say you had a $500,000 home and you're currently paying, we'll say 2% interest. Your interest cost every year is, like $10,000. So 3 months interest is about a quarter of that, right? So a couple of $1,000, that's a reasonable penalty. But on the flip side, if you're in the early term of the mortgage and it's a fixed rate mortgage, the penalty can be a lot higher, sometimes 5 or 10 times higher than that. So be quite mindful of that, because it could erase some of your potential profits, and I think people need to know that.
Yeah. So, I guess what would be some of the other reasons, or what would be some of the other costs, I guess, for selling?
Yeah. Well, aside from that, I think that a lot of the costs occur on the buying side. I mean, from a seller's perspective, of course, there's the real estate fees, but when you go to buy that next property, the usual advice that I give clients is bank on closing costs in the amount of around 1.5% of the house's value. So if you're selling a house for 500, or buying a house for say 700,000 or 600,000, or let's say on 600,000 for easy math, the bank or the lender is going to want you to have about 9,000 available to cover closing costs
Yeah,
for that new purchase. So that primarily includes land transfer taxes, it includes lawyer fees, and it includes appraisal and other miscellaneous fees that go along with that. So you may have other costs depending on your unique situation. Um, Small tweaks you have to make to the house based on something that the buyer finds, but yeah, bank on 1.5% of the purchase price of a home if you're not a first time home buyer, and certainly if you're breaking a mortgage that you're in, certainly consider that penalty as well. If you're curious about moving your mortgage with you, I can help you understand the rules around that as well. Some mortgages have portability built into it. So if you're not selling, and you're thinking about, what else can I do to sort of take advantage of the built up equity, the price increase that we're seeing. You're saying to yourself, hey, I like that 13% number, but I like my neighborhood and I don't really want to move, or, I don't want to do the work to make my house ready because I think it's going to be a lot of work. First of all, talk to a realtor because it may be less work than you think in today's market. But if you still decide that, you like to stay where you are, renovation is an option I think a lot of people are taking more advantage of lately. We're seeing more people investing more money in their home. Think about, you could update that kitchen that maybe you didn't love. From a lifestyle perspective, we go back to reasons why people buy. You talked about, getting access to a house that better fit your working lifestyle. Maybe it has the dedicated office space that you didn't have before, or two dedicated office spaces.
Yeah.
If you and your partner, or spouse, husband or wife still both need to be working from home, or kids who need a homework space. Maybe it's that area to replace your gym. So maybe your gym membership isn't as valuable as it used to be, and you want to have a space in the basement where you can do that. Renovation is a big value add if you think that you're going to be able to use it. So on the selling side, you mentioned that people don't need to necessarily renovate unless it's going to really bring them value when they
Yeah.
sell, and that's very true.
Yep.
If you're going to stay, you have to look at those renovations from the perspective of, will I enjoy it? Will I get value out of it? Is it going to do what I need my house to do without making me have to move?
Yeah.
So, with all that being said, there are a lot of things that you could do to, increase the value of your home with renovation. The next thing that comes to mind is certainly renovating for a accessory apartment.
Mhm.
Nowadays, especially in certain cities, Guelph's one of them. There's a lot of pressure for higher density, and if you have a larger home or a home with a basement that's available that perhaps you're not using, or you're not using it effectively, and you want to invest some money into that basement to make a legal accessory apartment, you could certainly use that space to create a way to offset your mortgage cost or offset your monthly bills, and you could earn a rent on a two-bedroom basement apartment. 12 to $1,500 is not unreasonable in the city that we're in Guelph. It does vary, of course, and any
Yeah.
expert realtor can help you understand that more deeply. But remember that 12 to $1,500 now becomes rental income, which you could use to support your future mortgage application. So there's a lot of reasons to create second streams of income that can help to bump up your lifestyle, pay off your mortgage faster, or perhaps give you the freedom that you were hoping to get by adding an additional stream of income. So you may not need to spend as much as you thought to make that accessory apartment legal and to get that tenant in there, especially considering that there's a lot of lack of rental housing available in Guelph. And if you use the existing equity in your home, like refinance or home equity line of credit, both of those things will take advantage of the value that's built up and allow you to get more access to more funds that you could use for renovation, like an accessory apartment. So certainly it's something to think about. The next thing I would mention is second properties, vacation homes. I mean, again, moving to Guelph from Toronto is pretty common nowadays because people are buying more home for the same dollars because they don't have to make the commute. I think there are a lot of buyers as well who are thinking about, well, I might be able to spend more time at the cottage this year because I'll be able to bring my laptop and work from wherever,
Yeah.
remotely throughout part of the summer. So imagine, instead of doing 2 days on the weekend at the cottage, you can do 3 or 4 days every weekend. That may make that longer drive to the cottage a little bit more economical for you.
Mhm.
So a second property that you could either use for vacation or even rental as an option, or leisure or whatever, could be something that a lot of homeowners would really be attracted to.
Yeah.
So all of those things can be accomplished through either refinance or home equity line of credit, depending on your situation, and I can help you understand the differences between them. But lastly, I think that the other way that people can get access to the funds available in their home, so they can take, basically the point is, we can take advantage of the um, historically low interest rates that are out there and the historically high property values in our local market. And that for this one is only for retirees. So those who are 55 years of age and older, is the reverse mortgage. And the biggest difference there with the reverse mortgage is that you get access to a portion of the funds that are built up, the portion of the equity that's built up in your home. Let's say your mortgage is paid off, and you don't have to pay it back until you move or sell the house. So if you want to stay in your current home, you want to keep living where you are because you like it, it's, you've been there for a while and you like the neighborhood or whatever reason, a reverse mortgage is good for those who are at retirement age, who could benefit from either an extra monthly amount or a lump sum, and you have the choice. So yeah, I know that's a lot of information, but I think certainly if you're thinking of staying, there are things that you could be doing to your existing home, taking advantage of extra low interest rates and your high property value. Doesn't mean you have to sell. So I think that there is a right time for everybody to sell, but there may be some situations where maybe now is not their right time. And I think it's important for homeowners to know that they have options.
Right.
But finally, on the cost, we talked a little bit about this, but there are costs to moving, costs to selling. There's real estate fees and commissions and professional fees and taxes and all these things, and it can add up. So that's another thing that people should consider is, as long as your financial goals can be met once you move after paying those things, then it's a great idea to consider selling today. But maybe that land transfer tax that you're spending now, you could avoid spending it and use that money in your home. So um, I think that really sort of sums up some of the critical reasons why somebody might consider staying where they are today. But again, it's all about providing balance. And I think that for a lot of folks, there's never been a better time to look at selling,
Yeah.
as long as we do it in an educated and balanced way that gives them both sides of the coin.
Yeah. Yeah. It's weighing out the pros and cons and just asking and talking to the professionals and stuff, right? And getting advice.
Certainly. And I think what you're saying, Rob, brings up a really good point. So we included this quote, but really this is about teams. So the quote that together we can do so much is really about putting yourself in the position to have a good team around you. So as a homeowner working with an expert realtor, I'm sure you have your accountant, you know what I mean? But all the people, your mortgage agent that can help you make great financial decisions, um, having a team around you that can give you the advice in areas that they're experts in, to help you make the best decision possible and to educate you is really critical for somebody who wants to have success and wants to have a good, enjoyable and clean experience in going through a sale of the home or staying where you are. Ask anybody that the advice that they get can be critical. And the good news is, and I think the same goes for you, Rob, is that advice is included, right?
Yeah.
So working with a mortgage agent, working with an expert realtor like yourself, advice is included,
Yeah. Yep.
right?
Yeah, I mean, the services we provide are free with no obligation at all, right? We're just here to help people, and if they do decide to sell their home or look for another home, or whether it's refinancing or getting a mortgage,
Yep.
we're here to help.
Right. Right. So, oops, I'm sorry. So having said that, I think that we've covered a lot. Um, we're probably going to move into questions pretty soon, but before I do, I want to make sure that we let everybody know that's joined the call or is listening afterwards. Thank you for taking the time to watch this, to join us for this webinar. We're going to open it up for questions after we stop recording, but in the meantime, if you have questions, if you want to get in touch with one of us, again, tonight's presentation is certainly without commitment. But if you have questions about something that you heard or saw and you want to learn more, Rob's information is on the top there, and my information is on the bottom. Please reach out if there's anything that we can do to help you make great real estate decisions. And now I think, Rob, what do you think? We'd probably move into questions.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep. I
so
think so.
thanks.
Yep.
All right. So thanks everybody who joined in, and have an excellent night. And like I said, we'll open the questions for now.
Okay. And I'll stop recording.